Hey, how's it going everyone? Welcome to the video. Today we're going to be covering Chane. I do apologize that my video is 2 weeks late. I had a bit of things that suddenly popped up in my life, mainly that my wife is pregnant now, and that meant that we had to go see the doctor and stuff like that to make sure that everything is going healthily. Luckily, the baby is in the right position. My wife is going to be due sometime in March next year, which is still quite a few months away, but it's also quite scary at the same time because I'm a full-time content creator and I was hoping that I could grow my content maybe a couple of years more until I reach a decent amount of income, because right now the average income every month from content itself is really way below the minimum standard to even live. Like, I'm earning under 500 right now, so it's a bit of a scary time for me, at least. So if you want to support me, I will just shamelessly plug in my Patreon on the screen right now. You can go check that out. And yeah, let's get into the deck tech then, shall we? So I'm going to be covering Chane today, like I mentioned, and the only thing that really changes is that now we have a sideboard. I was kind of hoping that maybe I could add some things in here, like some of the widespread cards, or maybe even a funeral moon or stuff like that. But as it turns out, all the old stuff that Chane already had is kind of the most optimal for this particular deck, and I didn't feel any need to change anything at all. Everything that I tried to change kind of fell out of place, and I just ended up reverting back to what Chane used to be, because all of this combos so nicely with the Spellbound Creepers. I do think though, if we were to cut the Spellbound Creepers entirely and went just with the Snapdragon skills, that things like Widespread Annihilation, I think the one is called, the one that gives you the Eloquence token, as well as Funeral Moon, could become kind of interesting. But for now, I think this is just the superior list out there, with the Belittles and the Minnowisms being able to very easily and very eagerly give us that extra action point in combination with the Spellbound Creepers when we play this at instant speed. So I do think keeping the list as it is right now is probably the best way going forward. So the list overall is performing really well. I think when it comes to cards from dusk till dawn, the only real outlier that you want to have in here is the Dryadic Carapace, simply because this does take away an Arcane Barrier slot in the deck, which means that now we can run the Carapace alongside the Vexing Quillhand, where we go into a matchup like Kano, and that gives us the space to actually run an Ebb and Fold as well, which has that very nice Spell Void too, making it very easy to stop 5 damage on whatever combo card they're trying to play, which can kind of screw over their combo turn and can help you to snowball into a win relatively easily. I put Oasis Respite in here. I think Oasis Respite is still a nice card against Kano specifically, and I guess in some extent maybe against Guardian, but I'm not a huge fan of running it against Guardian in general, because we don't run the Final Spring Tunic, and that makes it a bit awkward to pay for this card, and you would need to run something like Energy Potions in the deck, and that's not something I'm a fan of. So I feel like for the most part that running the list like this is probably the most optimal, with the Hall from Beyond in the main board, and then just bring the Oasis Respite against the Wizard matchups and nothing else. So I do have the Aether Ironweave in here. This one is mainly here for things like Katsu and Ira, because they can kind of whittle you down with these small attacks every single turn, and most of those ninja-centric heroes, they try to just block out whatever you're doing, and you cannot really get the full value out of your carrying Husk that way, because they just keep poking you with the Kodachi for 1 damage until you reach that 13 life checkpoint. So I do think that Aether Ironweave is just better, especially since it also gives you those 2 extra resources. And I do have Snapdragon skills in here against matchups that you want a bit more consistency. I mostly bring them in against the Wizard heroes again, because I don't want to be spending resources on Spellbound Creepers, because it gives Wizards a little bit too much flexibility for my taste to just OTK you on the spot. It is something I'm really not a fan of. Like, I really dislike facing Wizard in general, but most of you already know that at this point I'm not a fan of facing that hero. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all there is to say for Chane at this point of time. I think the deck is very good. Plunder Run is absolutely amazing in here because it helps you to get an additional card almost every time you play from the arsenal. And then we have these very big payoff turns together with the Revel and Runebloods, which have some really nice combo potential with the Spellbound Creepers if you draw both of them. Because what you can do, for example, is let's say you belittle with Go Again, then you play a Revel in Runeblood, but before the Revel in Runeblood resolves, you activate your Spellbound Creepers to play your second Revel in Runeblood. Then the second one will check if you have played a non-attack action card, which you have. The first one is still on the stack. And then when this one will resolve with the 4 Rune Chants, and after that the second one will resolve, and that one will then again also check if you have played a non-attack action card with attack action cards, which you have with the second Revel in Runeblood, and then that one will give you your 4 Rune Chant as well. So with the Spellbound Creepers you can very easily get 8 Rune Chants out of these 2 cards if you play them back to back, so that's a very little fun combo that you can consider doing. Another combo that I personally quite like is to just play the Minnowisms on instant speed because they help you to get your action points back, and in some cases you can keep the combat chain going so that they cannot keep blocking with equipment after that. So the Minnowisms together with the Spellbound Creepers are really good. That's why I only run 1 blue Minnowism. I fetch this one if I'm short on resource, and in all other scenarios I just go for the red Minnowism so I can flash them in with the Spellbound Creepers. And the deck is just very consistent. Shrill of Skullform. I said skill of Shrill-Form. Shrill of Skullform is a really high value card in general, a 7 for 2 in pretty much all scenarios, because we do create an aura with Chane when we create that Soul Shackle. So when we Soul Shackle and we go into the Shrill, we have that coming in for 7. So even on the turn when you only have Shrill and a blue in hand, you can still go for your Soul Shackle, Shrill for 7 and Rosetta for 2, which is 9 value with 2 cards. It's absolutely amazing. It does suck if you get your Soul Reaping banished with a Soul Shackle sometimes, but that's just the way it is. And I feel the deck, it's just so consistent most of the time that it's kind of worth running the risk that sometimes you're going to break with it. So I think you're going to have a great time with this. Let me know what you think. Are you going to be playing Chane in the Skirmish season or not? I'm still a bit uncertain about Away's Respite in general. I really like it against Kano, but I'm not sure if we're going to be seeing as much Kano. At least the past few months I haven't faced a single Kano at all. I keep preparing my decks in like preparation for what if I face a Kano, let's bring some Away's Respite and a bunch of Arcane Barriers, but I haven't faced a single one. Are there Kanos in your local scene? Feel free to let me know down below so I can get a bit of an oversight of what is going on in other scenes around the world. So yeah, that's all. If you want a very good Ira Fatigue deck, by the way, I posted a list over on my Patreon today, so definitely go check that out. A few days ago I also posted a Dorantia CC list, so if you're into Dorantia then you should check that out as well. And I will be back very soon with another deck tech and hopefully with a new updated deck list. Anyways, thank you for watching everyone, and I will see you all soon with another video. Take care.